Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, The Affair, Season 1, Episode 3, titled 3. Bibbs, Alonso, and let's have a quick look.
I can't stop thinking about you.
That's sweet.
It's not sweet, it's a problem. I really like you, but...
You're married, and you have a family.
I do.
And you love them,
Of course.
and you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that.
Right.
I get it.
What I'm really, I think, liking the most about this show, which, by the way, we have not mentioned that Eric Overmyer is the writer.
Okay.
And he is like a TV legend. He worked on Homicide. He's worked on a ton of really great shows.
Right.
I love how this is basically pointing out how all reminiscences are self-serving.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And yet, in some ways, that's almost the most superficial element of this show, even though it's theoretically it's genius because not enough people are play with that, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one of the, I'm not saying that's all that it is, but that's just a thing that I'm picking up more and more that I really like about how the more that we see his version versus her version, it's they're always out making themselves look like they're...
This episode kicks that into high gear. This is the episode where, again, it's possible that they'll derail eventually, but if they don't, this is the episode where I fell in love with The Affair.
Wow.
This is the one, because this has the most ingenious cliffhanger I've seen in I can't remember how long, where we've looked at a lot of inconsistencies, a little he said, she said, and there's more of that in this episode. Her clothes are different, who initiated what, who texted whom, but in the end, there's an overlap that is enormously unexpected and enormously intimate, in which they both say they did the same thing, said the exact same words to their spouses when the other one wasn't around.
That's true.
What the fuck does that mean? All I know for sure is that means one of them is completely full of shit, or both.
Well, there's a really interesting little tidbit that got thrown out on this episode, which is when she tells the detective, "I've got a sitter." So
Well, we knew she had a kid.
She has a dead kid.
Well, yeah, but she said she had to pick up her son. Like, that wasn't the most...
I'm not clear on that yet. I mean, like, I don't know if is she now somehow, are they together and she's got his kids? Is Joshua Jackson, been in a horrible accident and then she's got an at-home nurse? Like, what does sitter mean,
Right.
So that I find kind of intriguing. And again, it's like they're still sort of dangling out these possibilities of who's dead, why are they having these conversations, what's their relationship in the present? For all we know, they're together and colluding, and that's what's coloring their stories.
Exactly. That's the thing that I'm starting to wonder if that's the case. This show has programmed me in 2 episodes to really focus on the minutia, so that when there's anything a little more obvious than minutia that's different, it blew my mind.
Yeah, well,
I think that's my point. I think that's amazing storytelling.
Certainly, yeah. We look at any scene where they're together to like, what's she wearing? What's he wearing? Who's initiating conversation? Who's making the pass? Who's starting the kiss? That kind of thing.
And we're starting to notice some key differences, like in terms of she says he didn't even make it. To the town hall meeting, after which he says they had sex. That's a big difference.
Yes.
We talk a lot about, I remember this differently. Someone is lying.
Yes.
Someone is most definitely lying here, and that is incredibly intriguing. But a lot of this episode, and I love the beauty of this, is that even though we're looking at these sort of bigger ideas and issues and the sort of Rashomon detective story that we're dealing with, it's the details that are so funny. When I think it's John Doman plays the father. I forget his exact name.
I forget.
Okay, the father-in-law.
Right.
The I'm glad we had this talk, you fucking asshole. When Marjorie says, "Dad, you're taking care of the kids today," the look he has, like, I'm doing what? Well, that's fucking hilarious.
And it turns out, like, Kathleen Chalfant is just as awful. That whole story about I got hives the day your mother got married. And, then throwing all the money stuff around. It's like, oh God.
And Mara Tierney is I think, we Ruth Wilson and Dominic West are fucking phenomenal. She's like the next MVP on this. She has all these great little moments, like when her daughter is being an au pair, says, "Oh, the kids were brats and they never listened to me." And Mara Tierney's like, "Really? What's that like?"
Yeah.
That perfect comic timing. Those old school news radio comic timing. She's nailed it.
No, she's
so
great.
good.
I think Joshua Jackson's really good. I
He
find
doesn't
him
get a
more
chance to
interesting.
shine very often, and he's
Yeah.
really doing it. And it helps that we're not supposed to know whether or not we're supposed to think he's a sleaze
Exactly.
or self-serving.
Yeah. They're,
Yeah.
what's going on with the fishermen? I
That's
want to know.
gotta be
There's
a
clearly
big deal.
there's
There's something weird.
Envelopes of cash are being
Well,
passed
essentially,
back and forth.
And
like,
again,
what-
we're looking at things where it's like it's possible one person's leaving the stuff out. It's possible someone else thinks it's significant that the other doesn't.
Right.
She doesn't think it's significant, even though we made a big deal out of it last week in her story. Seeing the guy she knows who's a fisherman and all that stuff. But Dominic West noticed a lot of important big red flags in that situation.
No, but it's actually this week. She tells the fisherman story. She's the one who's giving him the tour and taking him down to the dock.
They both remember the tour. If memory serves, he remembers seeing a bunch of guys being weird for her, and I think that might be him projecting his jealousy.
Could be, yeah. But the longer conversation with the fisherman guy and almost buying the whatever they were and the
I remember that as being his.
I thought that was
Correct
her
me if I'm
story.
wrong.
I thought it was
Internet.
her story, but
Well, see, we can't even get our stories
Exactly,
straight. We
yeah.
watch the same episode. Perfect. That's the affair for you.
maybe we should divide these in two, and I'll do my reminiscence of the episode, and then you can do yours.
The most poetic use of Ferris Bueller's Day
Oh,
Off
wow,
I have
yes.
ever seen.
Yeah, that
That's
was-
very strange. Like it's one of my favorite movies actually. I love Ferris Bueller's
Hmm.
Day Off. It makes me laugh every time I watch it. And he comes home from having an affair,
Right.
which may or may not have happened. And his family is watching the scene where the Ferrari jumps out of the window and he's totally screwed and he's totally kicked himself in the head and he's going to have to deal with his family.
Right.
And it's this perfect shot of this wide shot. He doesn't even call that much attention to it. The family watching it and him being separate from them, watching this scene, and it's just. How is that haunting? That's the silliest concept of all the movies you could have put on there to illustrate that point. You picked Ferris Bueller. I love how innocuous it is.
Well, and it also touches on, that scene is so much about having the sort of rich father who is emotionally unavailable, and he's stuck spending the summer with the awful rich in-laws who treat him like an interloper, So there's
Yeah.
actually even multiple interpretations of that scene.
There's multiple interpretations of Ferris Bueller within the same show.
Yes.
Well done, The Affair.
Indeed.
Well done. I'm totally loving the show. I'm intrigued by the mystery. I like that 3 episodes in, we don't even necessarily know what the mystery is, so every little detail feels significant.
Exactly, yeah. We're sort of combing now for all the things
Yeah.
and just not only trying to figure out what happened, but what are they telling us, or what I think this is going to be the kind of show where once it's over, it'll be a great second binge watch because you're going to go back and see all these little clues and
Because I get the
moments
sense,
that-
when Lost got started and it built up all these really intriguing mysteries, there never really was a necessary sense that they knew where it was going. And I think that extemporaneousness made it intriguing, but in The Affair, partially because it's so literary.
Yeah.
And intentionally so, and
Yeah.
calling that out, it really feels like there's a very specific plan in place, and even if maybe we don't end up liking everywhere it goes, I think we'll be able to appreciate
Sure.
how it got there. I would also like to say that The Man Who Went to a Place is the worst book title I've ever heard in my life. That book title is terrible.
But as fake books go, that was really well art directed because a lot of
Yeah.
times fake books on TV shows and in movies look like they were made by people who've never held a book in their life.
Yeah.
So at least it looked like a genuine novel, but yeah, you're right, it's a shitty title.
It's such a shitty- no wonder it didn't do well. What do you
Yes,
expect?
absolutely. But no, I agree with you. This show is almost going to sort of Harold Pinter places because there's a lot of elliptical sentences and thoughts not completed and things not said and glances and
And we're only 3 episodes in, and I reserved the right to change my opinion later if it turns out it doesn't.
Certainly, yeah, it could
Follow
always
with
go
this.
south, but they're off to a good roll.
3 episodes in, this is the most rich television series I've seen since The Wire.
Wow.
And I mean that, and even Treme. Like, I really am totally digging this. It's very different, but it rewards close viewing and complex understanding. Every single character is a character, no matter how small they are, and they're all very distinctive. There's a lot. It's funny, but never without calling attention to itself. Like the line about, and Alec Baldwin was here complaining about his privacy, but you missed it. That was funny, but it didn't, and it felt right, but it never really was a thing.
Right.
It understands, I think, the way people interact in a way that is not phony. And you can
Yeah.
get away with phony. I can enjoy phony. Arrow is a little phony. It's a fun show. This never feels phony. This
Yeah,
never feels false, even though it may entirely be false. That's
Right. I mean, like the husband's speech at the town hall meeting could have been a real moment, and it just felt heartfelt. And and organic, you know.
Yeah, and yet also kind of dickish. He used his dead son as collateral.
Yeah, no, that was and I'm glad she called him out on that.
That was some straight up bullshit. And honestly, I don't even know why the hell he cares so much. I'm sorry, a bowling alley? Is that going to ruin your town? The teenagers will have somewhere to go. I'm sorry, you're going to have a few less acres to run your horses.
Well, Montauk has always been kind of an artist's colony, and you know, it's not. I mean, from what little I know, I'm not an East Coaster, but my impression is like there's the Hamptons is where the sort of flashy rich people go, and Montauk has always been more of the, you know, it's where Ralph Lauren has a house, you know, or it's where like the photographers and the writers
I
go.
was actually thinking from that perspective, and I'm like, surely Alec Baldwin, like, I guess, I don't know if he has kids, but if he has kids, wouldn't he want to get them out of the house? And like, you know, just send them out. The bowling alley is for them. I get picturing like, you can get like, you know, waitresses on roller skates and shit, you know, like really play it up, have some fun with it. I don't know, maybe I'm
generally pro bowling alley, but I get where he's coming from at the same time.
I guess.
So yeah, we're on board.
Definitely.
And interested to see where this thing's going next week. We hope you will stick with us too.